know. I don't think I actually need this.
I'll give you a quick introduction. This is Lily Hight. She is one of the gurus with Let's Play Music. She's been also using Piano Marble for about 4 years, would you say? Somewhere around
4 or 5
4 or 5 years. So Lily's been involved in doing a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of experimenting with Piano Marble and looking for new teaching techniques and everything. And Lily's been one of those teachers who has kind of charted her path, not just with Let's Play Music, but also with for use in Piano Marble. And she has also helped really pioneer a lot of the things we're doing with the hymns boot camp, and had a lot of experience with that as well. And so we've asked Lily to come down and give us kind of some of her expert advice on running boot camps. Her experience is, I think, primarily with hymns boot camps, but boot camps in general have kind of that same concept. And I know yesterday some of you had questions about what is a boot camp and how does that differ, and so maybe this will help clear up some of that as well. So anyways, we're delighted to have Lily here with us today, and excited to see what she's got for us. So.
Cool.
Right.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, he's giving me way too much credit. I'm not so much a guru, but I have had some experience with using the boot camps and love it. Yes?
I just wonder where you teach.
So I own Best in Music, which is a music store in Utah County. There are 4 locations. And so I teach from Best in Music as well as from my home studio. I have been a private teacher for about 10 years now. And my mother, of course, is a teacher, and so grew up in that environment and with the store. So I've purchased the store from my mother, who started that about 30 years ago, or 29 years. So family business there. So where I'm at right now is I have been teaching Let's Play Music for about 8 years. This will be my 8th year teaching Let's Play Music, and I have loved that. It's just been really fun for me, and really in my wheelhouse. And so as I've really built that portion out, I've taught fewer and fewer private students, and now I actually only teach group lessons and not private lessons anymore, just because there isn't time. So, but I have an education center where we have private teachers that teach with me in my studio. So, as far as the hymn boot camps, these have been a really great resource. I mean, so cool, and there's so many more options now instead of just the hymn boot camp. They've got just a great variety of these boot camps. So some of these things can be applied to classical pieces, popular pieces, Christmas. I think, don't you have a Christmas one? So just some really great stuff there. Excellent reading tools for sure. So what I do because I teach group lessons mainly in the school year, I teach Let's Play Music, which is a 3-year program. I am on several of the training teams for Let's Play Music, as well as the curriculum development teams. And so I am really in the wheelhouse of like beginners and intermediate. So I am on the curriculum development team for the toddlers program, which is called Sound Beginnings, and that goes up to 4 years old. And then I am also a primary curriculum developer for the graduate program, which is for about 6 to 9 years old. Once they graduate Let's Play Music, we are introducing a program where they connect with private teachers and private piano. And so they go through a year which is called Bridge, and I am the developer for that program, which will be coming out next year. So I hope to be able to share more with you next year about that. Okay, so in using the hymn boot camp, I primarily use this in the summer because our school year is packed with Let's Play Music and all sorts of things. So me personally, I use the summer full boot camp version in the summer. For private teachers or teachers that aren't doing the Let's Play Music program, absolutely during the school year for sure. It can be used year-round. So the mini boot camps, in my experience, I feel like the mini boot camps work a little better during the school year because they can just be kind of fit into wherever you want to put them. Put them into, exercises and reading exercises throughout the school year. They're shorter. Are they just 20 songs or 20?
There's 9 songs.
Nine. Okay, with different levels in each. There are three speeds in each. Okay, so those are shorter and it just means that you don't have to focus on it for as long, and the students don't have to have that attention put there as long. For the mini boot camps, they kind of get that, yay, I did it, and then you can take a break, do something else, come back to another boot camp, that kind of thing. So the mini boot camps is a really cool thing that they've developed. They started out with the full boot camp, and that was it, and that's what I started with, and because I like to do this pretty intensely during the summer, I mostly am using the full boot camp versions for myself, but the mini boot camps are super cool. Okay, so does everyone know, let's see, hymn boot camp, know kind of the structure of the boot camps and how it works? Any questions? You've heard of the boot camps enough that I can go forward and kind of talk about it. Feel free to just anytime ask me questions.
Do you want me to run through it real quick?
Yeah, maybe so. Do you want to just give an overview that way?
Because I looked across and some people are like,
Yeah, for sure. That would be really helpful.
Where's the book? The Hymns Made Easy book.
Oh, I've got one up here.
Okay, this is the concept of a boot camp. You open page 1, Mountaintop. Let's say we do like a very, very beginning, because there's 3, you could either do the right hand alone or the left hand alone, and then you could do hands together after that. So if you start with just the right hand alone, that's kind of like the lowest level. If you skip to a stage 10 of the boot camp, that means you can read hands together on this. A lot of people can't, right?
Yeah.
So we just started at stage 1, which is you take your right hand and you read through this piece, 3 speeds, slow, medium, fast. Flip the page. Go to this song, read the right hand only, slow, medium, fast. Flip the page. And you go through the entire book. That way.
Just right now?
Just right hand alone. And you come back the second time, you do it again, right hand. And you just read it. And so what they notice is, hey, I'm scoring better this now. After you've read through this entire book, your reading is just going to improve, just for the sheer fact that you've read through it. And so the idea was just inundate them with read, 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 read. Doesn't matter what their score is, they're going to see improvement. What do you do the third time you come back through? Now we do the left hand. Read through the whole book, do it again. Book. Now, the hard part comes with the next step, which is putting hands together. So what we do is take these new kids and we say stage 5 is they perfect a hymn. So we'll go in and find an easy hymn and have them just perfect one hymn with the minced version. So they go and do just the right hand on the first 4 bars until they get 100% or at least an 80%. And they move on to the left hand and they put hands together until they've actually mastered a song. So they learn how to coordinate their hands together. Stage 6, they do the same thing with another one. And then we get to stage 7, which is they run through the right hand through the first third of the book. Then they do the left hand, this is just kind of like a review, the left hand through the first third of the book, and then they put hands together. For the first time they're reading hands together after all this preparation of hands independent. Stage 8 is they move on to the next third of the book, and stage 9 is the last third of the book. Stage 10, they come back through the whole book, and they read hands together through the whole thing. How long does it take to do that? That's a lot of reading.
It is a lot of reading.
We're talking
yeah, a lot of reading.
hundreds and hundreds.
Oh, it's over 1,000. It's over 1,000 read-throughs. I've calculated that it's like 1,069 or something like that. It's really high.
And so you can get somebody through this
now, the fastest would be somewhere around 2 months or so. I mean, it has been done faster. It has been done faster.
I've seen a little girl, 8 years old, do it in 17 days.
Yeah, which is a little bit obsessive, compulsive.
Her sight reading score outdoes a lot of the kids at BYU at age 8. I mean, her reading's off the charts now. she's gone through, and she's done 670 Sasser tests, which is, think about that, that's like 15 songs per test, that's 6,000 read-throughs. So,
So much.
reading is
Yeah.
the college
She's having
level.
fun, isn't she?
Yeah,
She's crazy.
she loves that. So yeah, I typically give them my students the summer, so about 2 to 3 months, and I encourage them to get all the way through up to level 10 because really they see the biggest benefit on the end side of it, the levels 5 through 10, just because they've had that exposure and they're really building those connections.
Now, this is a true boot camp, and it's big and it's hard, but you learn. I mean,
Yeah.
you are solid. You
So
can take somebody
valuable.
who's never played piano before. By the time they finish that in 2 months, they're reading these songs. Never played piano before. So it's pretty cool if they can get through it. We've developed the mini boot camps for the people who can't get through it. And what it is we take the book and divide it in 6 sections and create mini books. So the first 9 songs becomes your book, and we go through 9 songs that way. And then the next section is your next section. So you could just once a year say, this time of the year we're going to do, and it's basically then you have 6 years of doing that.
Do you have that written down, like, the level? No. That you could
Yeah.
LearnToPlayTheHymns.com.
What is it?
LearnToPlayTheHymns.com. There's a little instruction thing with a whole long Google Doc that explains it all.
Awesome.
Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just, we put this together to teach kids how to read the hymns because they're just learning hymns typically, memorizing them, and we want them to read. And then we thought, all right, now we've got this concept and it works, we're going to do classical, we're going to do, we did the other
Pop songs.
The pop songs are fun.
You just
Those-
pick a book and do.
So you just read through it. Just lots of reading. And it's got fun background accompaniments. Yeah.
On these camps, do you meet with them like once a week, or is this an every
It
week?
really just, so I can share what I do, but the cool thing is all the foundation is there and it's all tracked through the system. So whatever works for you, really the key points are motivation and accountability. So if you can, instill that within your system, then you really can use it in a variety of different ways. And I'll share how I do it in the summer. But yeah, you could use it as part of your private lesson and just check in with them. They could work on it at home. They could only work on it in the studio with you while they're there. So anything would work. I just do want to go back to this here and just mention that they do have the standard boot camp, so hymns made easy, and for more intermediate or advanced players, upper intermediate once they're advanced. Yeah, some of them are pretty advanced, yeah. So there is just the standard hymns as well, which gives you the ability to really catch most levels in this. So this is something you can use with any student. Really.
How many hymns are in this, the boot camp for the standard?
The standard is a selected hymn, so it is not the full hymn book. It's like 60, yeah.
And they sell that book at
The distribution center.
$2. It's 60 of the most
Yeah.
common big hymns.
But it's the regular way.
It's the regular arrangements of the hymns, yeah. Yeah. And
Do you know what Sasser score would be associated?
ooh,
700 to 800.
okay, yeah.
If you're getting an 800, basically you can read the hymns.
But I'm just saying, like, if I wanted a student to do boot camp, the regular book for the boot camp, would you want them to have like 700?
I would want them to go through the hymn first, or
Because I have
even if
students
they
that
do
are
well.
already learning regular.
I would start them lower, actually. I would start them, so if they're like at a level 3 or 4, I would probably put them in the regular boot camp if they've had exposure to playing hymns because they do play right hand only quite a bit, then left hand only quite a bit, and it kind of eases them into that hands together. And I want them to not have scores that are too high because that doesn't give them as much room to grow. I'm really happy actually if they're in like the 20, 30% range to start out.
One other thing you should know is I told you the level, like stage 1, which is the right hand, then the left hand, then perfect, then hands together. Well, you can skip right to level
Right.
7, which is just right, left, hands together, or you can skip to level 10, which is together. So if you got an advanced kit and you're like, I just want you to warm up to the big boot camp, the big book, let's just run through stage 10, which is you're going to read through the book, hands together.
Of the hymns made easy, and then pop in.
Then we'll see your scores. If I approve, then I'll start in the high one.
Yeah, that's a great.
So it's pretty
You
versatile.
said 7 and 8 is where they go right, left.
Right, left, hands together. When you open a boot camp, it kind of tells you what
What's
each
happening,
stage
right?
will do.
Yeah. Okay, so some of the things to help make this successful that I found work well is to send out a welcome email to the parents. So they have some expectations of what's going on. This is like for an actual boot camp where we're just focusing on this. And if it's part of their lessons, I would still, inform them, okay, we're doing this, we're starting this, and this is what we're gonna do. So in that welcome email, I do have parents attend the first lesson. The reason I do that, and if you're using Piano Marvel already in your studio, they know how to use Piano Marvel, really, they probably don't need to attend the first lesson as much. They can get that information through email or however you communicate with your parents. But attending the first lesson, if they haven't used Piano Marvel before, is really important so that they can see how it works and kind of understand this is just different than traditional piano lessons. And so we want to make sure that they're on board, they know how to help at home and help them continue. Now, when I say helping at home, I do have my students all do this at home as well as with me when we meet. So we meet approximately once a week, and I've had it a couple different ways. I've had session 1, we meet every week. Session 2, we meet every week, with a little break in between for holidays and things. That's worked well. My schedule this summer is busier and more traveling going on for me. And so I actually just have 1 session of boot camp, and I have 4 weeks. And we're just meeting like every 2 weeks. I think we even have a 3-week period in between where we meet. So in between those periods where we're not meeting, I'm emailing and following up, and then we have some of that accountability together. So I list the required materials. Required materials are, whatever book they're using, the selected hymns or the hymns made easy. Optional equipment, I do put this in as optional, but it's highly recommended, and everybody in my studio does do a keyboard rental or make sure they have a station at home where they can do it at home, just because they'll progress further. If they're only doing this with me, then they only have, an hour once every, however often we meet, to move through it. So, like I said earlier, the main benefit is if you can just get that exposure, that sight reading exposure. So this is a hymns, learn to play the hymns, but it really should be learn to sight read, because it is very, it's cool. I love, especially in this environment where, the hymns are so important in, this community, and so well known. This is awesome. It incorporates some ear training stuff, the exposure to the hymns that I think is super important. But just really, it's a focus on sight reading and not so much performing hymns, but really that's what hymns is about. If you're going to play hymns in church, most of the time people will say, oh, do we have a piano player? Can anybody play, and you're sight reading hymns, right? You're not practicing them very often and saying, okay, I have these 4 hymns that I can play. You can do that, but being able to sight read the hymns is such a huge benefit. So it's really this is a focus on sight reading for sure. And so that exposure to sight reading is really important. So I include a schedule, the free account information, let people know, okay, I am signing you up for a free Piano Marvel account, just so you're aware, if as you get those confirmation emails and things. I have found that if I do all of the signing up for them, then I have fewer questions to answer later. It's just hard for parents to go, no, wait, what is that I'm supposed to do? And how do I, what was my password supposed to be? I always set the password up as Piano Marvel, lowercase, just so it's really easy for me to be able to access everybody's account just in case we have any issues.
So you do check out keyboards to your students?
I do. That's
You have on hand.
well, that's a little unique for me. Because I teach Let's Play Music, the young students, when they start on the keyboard, they have Casio 61 key keyboards, which works well for the Hymns Made Easy. And so because I don't use those in the summer, I have all of those keyboards available that they can check out, and I rent to them during the summer.
How many people are in your boot camp?
It just depends on how many I want to open. I've had up to about 30 in there, and right now I have like 14 in this year because I just didn't really push it, or I didn't market it very much. But
Teach a boot camp, how many kids are you?
I have, so it really depends on how many iPads, computers, and keyboards you have available at one time. You could teach as large as you wanted, really, because it's very self-managed, and so that's really cool that you can have a big group. Right now, I have the ability to have about 9 I actually had all 14 come when Joel came and observed. So when I'm over at the music store, I can have 14, but at my home studio, I have about 9 fit, yeah. And that really just is up to you. And then general expectations of how it's set up. And this also could be done with 2 or 1. You could just go through it with 1. So that sizing is really flexible. Preparing for class. So I create free accounts with their email, and I always have a master list. This is my first class, second class, or whatever, so that I have that reference of what the parents' email address is, or whatever email address we use for that child. And then the passwords are all the same. I link to a teacher code. Have you talked about teacher codes already? How you can run reports for all the students that are linked to you?
We haven't done any reports yet.
Okay, so the cool thing about, just one of the cool things about Piano Marvel in general is you can run these reports and you can get all that data that, was being talked about earlier. You can see how far all your students are progressing. It's just really neat because you don't have to the students aren't compelled to go, I worked really hard, even though they did it, because it's just all there and recorded, right? So it records every minute that they
I
practice.
was wondering if you could show us a report of your current.
Yeah. Oh, can I? Can I just log in? I guess I've been closing my internet access prompts here.
You're in the middle of a slide. We can see it after you're done with the slide.
Okay. Yeah, I can pull that up. I have been out of town in Yellowstone, so I haven't checked it for like a good week and a half. So we'll see. That'll be good. I need to check it.
It's different hearing about the reports and actually seeing a report.
Yeah, it's really, I agree. Let's pull one up. Let's see if I can get back to, let's see, slideshow. Oh, shoot, sorry. Oh, it's up on the screen. I'm not sure. Anyway, I don't know if, Joel, you might,
Split screen probably.
is it? I'm not sure how to get back to window. Maybe I'll minimize or something. As I go to that, it just doesn't come up.
I think it's because of your.
Oh, there it is.
Yes.
Okay,
If
that's
we
great.
Pause this.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. No?
That's okay. We'll go through this and then we can come back to the reports. So it does show, how far they've made it in to the boot camp and how many minutes they've practiced. You can put in any time period. So from the beginning of the summer to today, how many minutes have you got? And then you've got your list of students and how many minutes they've practiced, which is really, okay. So do I want to go to the slideshow though right now and just continue with that? Or
It's
do you
up
want-
to you. We'd like to see the report.
Okay,
What
let's
kind of
pull it
data
up.
you see.
Okay, so let's just go to Piano Marvel. Ooh, let's see if it'll work. Okay. And I may not have internet.
Are you connected to? Go to the Danes.
Dean's Wireless.
Which one? Just no. Yeah, Danes Wireless.
Okay.
Is it again?
Stick with the wireless one. October 1873 is the password.
Okay. October.
All lowercase?
Lowercase. 1973.
19.
Or 18. Sorry, 1873.
Okay. That'll do it.
What other questions does everybody have? Lily?
Yeah.
I have a question.
I'm going to have a lot of questions when I see your report.
My kids are going to be the lowest on there. I really do. Okay. I don't know. Do I need to just pick?
Now try going like to Google or whatever, or just any,
I just try.
see if it'll go now.
Ah, there we go.
Now you're good.
Okay. So I just log into my account. Okay. And then, oh, actually, don't I just launch the app
Yes.
and do it? Okay. Okay, so we're going to go to reports and continue with my free.
Go slow.
Okay, so go over to reports. And then we're going to do, okay, so my students. And here I'm going to do, up at the top, you have a selection of reports that you can choose.
Did you know your arrow will arrow you down too?
Oh,
So like click on
Oh.
that, just hit the down.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so group practice minutes, SASSA report, hymns made easy, hymns made easy, mini boot camps. So let's do, would you recommend just the hymns made easy boot camp? I haven't run that one actually. I usually just do like a general.
You do the
Practice.
general one.
Okay.
I just wanted to see what you see.
Okay, so let's go from June, I think I can't remember which week we started it, maybe June 8th or something. I don't know, we can just start from June 1st. And then go to today is 14th. All classes, I actually put them into a class. So these are my bridge kids I use for Let's Play Music Bridge, that graduate program. I also use Piano Marble. So those are those bridge classes, but for Hymn Boot Camp is right there. And then I've chosen the time period, and so we just hit go. Oh, maybe. And the bottom is if I want to email to me, right?
Scroll down and see if it's showing.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so here are my kiddos right now. We see that Emily Stevenson has 738 minutes of practice time. She's kind of a rock star. She is, she is, oh my gosh, there's two stuff. Okay, so she's like 300 more minutes, higher than the next person, which is pretty awesome. These guys need attention, so I need to call them. I have texted and followed up, but they have been out of town and traveling in a major way. These are my children. We have been out of town a lot as well. Okay, and so I can see just at a glance, okay, how are we doing on our practice minutes? That translates directly into where they are in the hymn boot camp. And it shows, here it breaks down, which day they practice. It's kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of like, I know exactly what you're doing kind of thing, But it's neat to have that information. And that way you can just talk really frankly with them and say, hey, is there anything, what can I do to help or, motivate? Because the key things are motivation and accountability, right? So this gives you that accountability.
Showing them this chart,
Yeah,
make their eyes open like, you can see every day at practice or every
Yeah.
day now.
And I do email out a condensed version of this, to all the families, just so that they can see who kind of the top practicer of the period is. I don't really do the conglomerate just because I don't want people to be like super frustrated. So you have to kind of weigh that in your studio and how much accountability you want to give to everybody. I would totally show something like this to one student at a time. But I do say, hey, Emily practiced, has practiced 736 minutes so far total, and she's like the highest practicer, or for this period, here's, how many minutes everybody has practiced. Way to go, and just, focus on the positive that way.
I'm really curious about the boot camp report now.
Yeah, should we
and
go
just
to that
see
one?
what kind of numbers you're getting.
Yeah.
What kind of students these are.
Okay, so, hymns made easy. No, wait, or isn't that the one?
Let's see what this one is.
Okay.
This is,
Okay, so I'm not sure how to read this one. Can
no,
you
let's go to
enlighten me?
the other report then.
Okay. This one here. Is there,
No, back to the,
Oh.
sorry, to the boot camp reports.
Okay.
Um,
so hymns made easy automated?
Yeah, try that one.
Okay. Okay, so that it shows And I teach kind of, elementary kiddos.
It looks like
and
there's a kid in already up to stage 5.
That's Susanna Gubler. Stage 5. Stage 4 is Zach McCann.
Can I see the kid at stage 5? If you click on their name on the left,
Susanna Gubler.
what kind of scores are we seeing? The right hand, let's zoom in.
So
a
an
little we can
average
see it.
of,
And plus, and I'll just explain this to everybody
okay,
here.
that's great.
So what's kind of cool is if you see this up on a mountaintop, her first score was 46% when she did her first read through, which tells me she's a decent reader.
Yeah.
And then she got a 74 the second time she read it, and then when it went fast, she got a 45. She averaged 55% that first time. She read through all this, and now if you scroll down, I'm looking for trophies. There's one right here. So she finally got over 82% on that one. Look at this one. Oh wait, that's the next section. Go down a little more. Any others? Okay. Oh,
Green
Green
Hill
Hill.
Away is a pretty easy one. That's the
my
easy one.
guess is she's played that before.
She might have, yeah,
Okay.
probably.
But notice she's actually getting better, and she's getting higher scores,
And she goes
which is
down.
pretty impressive.
She's getting more, those trophies.
Here's the one she got really high scores on. You keep going down.
That's
Now remember, this is just her right hand. So look what happens now when she goes to the left, to the next time she read the right hand through. She had a 69, 75, 63. She averaged a 69% compared to her 55%.
Which is, and the cool thing is, this gives you the total kind of average. You can see she really improved.
She improved
Sight
a
reading.
lot just reading. That's a big jump.
Yeah. That's a big jump.
And then
look
she
at
did the left hand, 47%, so her right hand's a little better. She gained 13% between there, just reading those right hands.
And this is just 2 times through. This
Yeah.
is just,
So this is kind of the cool thing. They don't realize they're progressing until they see those numbers and they're like, wow, I'm getting better, which generates an excitement in the student when they can see that progress. Because sometimes the progress is so small that you don't notice they're going, that they're moving along and improving unless you look at the data.
right. It's really hard to quantify because there's so many variances in pieces that they might sight read or levels and things like that. And so this just helps them see, oh, I am getting better.
And this would be a good thing to show that student.
This one doesn't have hands together on this report, I'm not sure. Oh, she only made it to stage 5.
She's not to hands together yet.
Yeah, so that would be 7 and 8 and 9 and 10.
Yeah, so that data will show
Yeah.
up when she passes.
So is there a trophy case? Orange means trophy.
That just means
Yeah.
that, it kind of highlights your high scores. Yeah. And now this is kind of different though, because I don't focus as much on the trophies and the high scores as much as I do the difference in the percentages. Because it's the process of improving, right, that you are really looking at. This is very sight reading focused. And so if you've read the Talent Code, which is a really great book, if you haven't read that, I recommend that. In our brains, there's this substance called myelin, which coats our nerve synapses, and it's what creates that talent. It's what makes us able to look at something and connect all of those different parts. Look at the note on the staff, connect what note that is, where it is on the piano, and be able to play that correct note, all just like that. And you just can't do that without practice, right? Without building these strands of myelin that help it myelinates that nerve synapse, yeah. And so what we're doing is this is just a constant opportunity to build that myelin and build up their ability to sight read. It's really cool. I love this. And then they share that information. All of them are like, hey, look at how you're doing, they show them. But I email to the parents directly. You can totally email to it if you have older students. So, continuing on here. Oh, let's see. Maybe just play this here. Okay, so get into.
Okay. There you go.
All right. So And I'm sure just in the general usage of Piano Marvel, you realize that you do need to verify the account to continue moving forward. So I always verify that myself, just so we don't get to class and have somebody that can't use their account and we're just taking time from everybody else. So I make sure that before class starts, I have everybody's account set up, everybody's password is clear, everybody's verified, and then we've come up with our accountability method. So as far as accountability, there are a few things I use. There's this fun poster that Aaron's made available that I purchased from him, and it needs a little bit of updating because it kind of changed the way it's worked. But this is some of my kids from last year that went through the boot camp. And so it's kind of nice to have something in the studio that they can see their picture kind of moving up. It's basically a report, but like a visual of the report, kind of the general how they're doing. I also have a tracking sheet that I have made that I just have them paperclip right into the front of their hymns maybe Z book. And this helps me to kind of know what their plan is. So accountability, we've kind of got that with the reporting and with this. How are you doing? Motivation is incentives, right? So this is a lot of reading. This is hard work, and we want them to stay motivated and excited to be doing this. Seeing their progress is a big part of that, because that motivates for sure. That's probably the strongest motivation. But for young kids, I teach young kids, and so I have once they complete stage 1, which is the read through with the right hand all the way through, one time at the 3 different speeds. Then I have them write down an incentive, work with their parents to see what that incentive might be. This one was 2 Sour Patch Kid bags. Whatever. That is important to the student. This is actually my son. And I was okay with that. So I'm like, okay, great. And so I have on here completed and got it. Because as parents, it's really hard to keep track. Did I give you that? I thought I did. And so we don't want any confusion there. So I have a completed box. Once they're done, they check off that they completed it. Once I give it to them, check, you got your thing. And then we move on. You can fill these out all the way up to stage 10 right at the beginning. You can fill them out along the way. It's kind of nice to have a few more than just the one filled out. We're kind of the slackers of this group. So, but just so they have some fun things to look forward to, just kind of like a pat on the back, like you're doing a great job. You've been working towards something. I want to help you get that. And so that's a fun thing to do. On here, this is just completely my own thing because it's so focused on sight reading. And some parents have in their minds like, oh, I want them to be able to play a few hymns really well, which now Aaron's incorporated that into stage 5 and stage 6 of perfecting a few hymns. So I don't really need this anymore, but before he did that, I created this, and it has them pick out 4 hymns that they'll learn to perfection or to be able to accompany people with those 4 favorite hymns.
You don't mean memorized, you mean.
Not memorized, just being able to play hands together, accompaniment style. So if they mess up, they got to keep going, and it's kind of that skill, building that skill of being able to accompany and stay, on the beat, keep the rhythm even, and skip ahead if they need to, that kind of thing, catch back on. So that's what this part is. They pick a song, and those parent signature on that. Now at the bottom here, I have a SASR, Standard Assessment of Sight Reading little tab here, and we have a starting SASR score, and we have an ending SASR score. And that gives them even more of that, hey, look where you started, and look where you got to. Like, you made a ton of progress, which really shows the parents, like, this has, been a really awesome thing for them to do, because they've made so much progress. And so that even if they don't get all the way through to stage 10, they still have their beginning and their ending, and of course, your reports that you can show them all the progress they've made.
So how do we get one of those?
Email me.
Yeah.
I'll work with Aaron on that one. Yeah, that's just something that I've come up with. Okay. Interest. So we talked about the incentives, like for completing the stages. Celebration. Just anytime somebody moves up to another stage, we all clap and make, big celebration, because that's a lot of work. It represents a lot of sight reading. So we want to really celebrate that and have that kind of team celebration. In-class tracking, they do this at home and in class. So I I just decide I want 2 choices. Sometimes I have kiddos that can't have sugar or whatever, so I usually have 2 choices each class. I rotate them out as far as what we use. They can be beads, they can be pennies, they can be anything. I usually have them lay out, so we have a goal of how many songs they should practice each day. And that can vary based on what the parents' expectations are. I want them to typically to get through 10 songs, so that's 30 read-throughs, right? Because you have the 3 speeds in each. And so I would have them lay out 10 Skittles or whatever they choose. And then when they finish the 3 read-throughs, then they just go ahead and get to eat one of those Skittles, and then they move on to the next song. So that kind of helps. That helps the per song tracking. For those little kids, it really does help them a lot. And then that way, in a classroom setting, I can see, when we're doing this in class, I can walk by and in an instant I can see, okay, they're moving fast. Okay, I gotta give them some more, I gotta check in with that person. Ooh, this person's struggling, what's going on? Like we've only done 2 songs and we've been working for 20 minutes or whatever. So that visual instant tracker is really helpful in class and at home. So I encourage parents to do this at home as well. It's just lay out, if their goal is 10 songs a day, 12 songs a day, just lay out 10 or 12 of something, and then they can instantly see when their child is, the progress their child is making. And it gives them something to kind of keep them busy tuning as they're concentrating and that kind of thing. Okay, the rental equipment, I do have like little rental packages, those Casio keyboards, if you decided you wanted a few of those available. I own a music store, which is kind of funny, but these inexpensive keyboards, there's just not a lot of margin in them. You can get them on sale, like at Christmas time from Target, and Aaron's got some great sales that they do with keyboards that you can get. So I usually just have a few on hand. I mean, they use my Let's Play Music keyboards, but it's nice to have a few on hand that you can rent out to people. USB cable, an optional audio cable if they want to use headphones. I have them, of course, when they're all together, I have them all on headphones so that they can play and concentrate. And then if you're using iPads, you need to use the Apple camera adapter to use it with an iPad, so your USB cable will connect to the iPad from the keyboard. And then I found that there must be a late fee attached to a keyboard rental package because I need those back. They represent a lot of expense on my part, and so I want to make sure I have them back. And so just the accountability there, just in my experience, if I don't have a late fee, then I'm wondering where who has what and that type of thing. And I do have a form that I created for the rental packages, what you got, what number it is, all of that, which they sign, just so that.
And you'll send that to Aaron.
So that helps me keep track of my equipment and stuff that way. And that just gives them the ability to progress at home. Some people have their own keyboard already, and so they just need to go buy a USB cable, and I just encourage those families to just go buy their own USB cable and just have it so they can use all the time. If they have their own keyboard, they're really set, because everybody's got like a computer, an iPad, usually that they can hook into it, move the keyboard close to the computer, or use a laptop. Okay, first lesson. We always do like kind of an ice-breaking game, a rhythm kind of ice-breaking where we share each other's names. I learned that from Aaron, so that's kind of fun. We go through the account login process and the navigation, how to get to the hymn boot camp, which is in the library. So if you look up hymns, then you'll see that on the list, and you just drag it over, and it gives you the option to do the hymn boot camp. Do you want me to show that, like the start hymn boot camp thing in there? Or?
I think we did that.
Okay. Okay, so it's just in the library, that same thing. So showing parents that, we go through a demonstration so that parents can see what we're doing, how it tracks. I mean, I teach a lot of parents where I'm introducing Piano Marvel to them at the same time. So, showing them how it tracks every note that they play, how we need to be accurate with rhythm and with notes. And then I make sure I emphasize and point out the differences between this type of practicing versus traditional piano practicing. This is sight reading focused. I tell them about myelin. I talk to them about how when you take a test at school, you're trying to get 100%. You're trying to get, you're trying to get an A. You're trying to get the highest score possible. In this situation, we really are not not really trying to get 100%. We want you to be between 12%, I have found, is a pretty good low benchmark, and maybe 40, 50%. I just say about 12%, 50%. If they're a little higher than that, it's okay, but I want their expectations to be really low because I don't want them to be frustrated, right? If you get 12%, that's awesome. That's really great, okay? What we're measuring is progress, not your final score on each song. So that they really need to understand that going into it, because we've got these little perfectionist kiddos who are wanting to get 100% on everything, and it just kind of like panics them a little bit to get a low score. But if you're at 100, then you don't have room to improve your sight reading, right? So then you actually should go up a level. So you don't want 100%, you want it to be lower than 100%. So make sure the parents understand that, make sure the students understand that. If they're lower than 12%, I had a kiddo that started out, he was at 8%, and he was the perfectionist kind. And him and his mom are both the perfectionist kind. And they were just getting really uptight, and at the end of class, they're like, I don't know if we can do this, you know? And it is an option for them to go into the exercises, the lesson 1 method exercises, and do a few of those to get used to it before they come back into the Himbuga. So that's a way, if you're feeling like they are too young or just starting out, they can do this, but they may want to get accustomed to piano marble through the method. I checked in with him last week, and it's amazing. He is up to like average of 60-something%. And he started at 8% like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It's just crazy. 8% to 60-something%.
If you have students that are new to piano marble that are in your boot camp, do you just have them use the free ones since it's on?
Yeah, the Him boot camp is all on the free account. So I sign up everybody with a free account, and then to do other boot camps, you just go into the premium account. So yeah, I start everybody with a free account, and I say, hey parents, like you can do this too. And I have some parents that are really excited about being able to do this. So it really is a great way to introduce them to piano marble, help them see the value of piano marble, and then as they see more need for that, to move up into the premium account after they do a Him boot camp. Okay, and then I go through the accountability plan, you know, with my parents so that everybody's on the same page with what we're doing. Okay, other elements I talked about, the beginning and the ending sasser. I do that the first day or the beginning of the second day for the beginning sasser, and then whenever we end in the summer. Other elements that I like to teach about that are totally optional is I teach about incomplete measures and upbeats and downbeats, because there's so many of those in the hymns, right? And then I also teach some conducting skills and accompaniment skills. So periodically we'll pull off and just take a few minutes, and I'll have somebody play wherever, right hand, left hand, hands together, wherever they're at, one of their 4 songs, and we'll all sing and conduct together as that person or that team. Sometimes we divide into teams, and they play, you know, one of the easier songs, you know, all together as an accompaniment, and then we conduct. So that's something that I feel like for me, because I create this as a summer boot camp, I kind of rounds out my boot camp. You don't have to do that. You could just focus on just the sight reading portion of it. But I feel like that helps with the hymns. Okay, continuing, they can continue at home. This is something that if they don't get to stage 10 during the summer, they've got a free account, they've got access, they're used to it, they can continue at home. I typically need my keyboards back by the end of the summer, so that is a somewhat limiting factor, but if they have their own and they're motivated to purchase their own at the end of the summer, they can continue on with that. Parents can participate as well. They can see all the cool things that are available in the premium account and go forward into that. Or you can always have another session to look forward to if you want to just continue to have these sessions and keep going with those students, which I have done before as well. One thing that I want to make sure, that I point out is they have all these tools for them free at home, right? So why can't they just do this on their own at home and just go through it, and they don't have to pay me tuition, and they don't have to come to class and all of those things, and they totally could do that, right? It's completely available to them, and yes, that's great. But in my experience, I have seen families wanting to do that, and they've come to the first session of boot camp and said, well, we'll just do it on our own for the second session. And as you look in their reports, they just die off, right? Why? It's because they don't have accountability anymore. So there's just something about coming to that class and being together and having that accountability that makes it successful. I have not had any families make it further than another stage or two not being in our class. So it really, that's a big component of the Hymn Boot Camp working, is you as a teacher being there to help facilitate this.
I would say it's the biggest component.
Yeah, yeah.
Teacher is the key.
Yeah, it's really interesting. At first I was kind of like, well, I guess you could do it at home. Sure, you can try it, and I didn't really know, and I was like, well, you've got all the tools.
But you will fail.
Well, yeah. I mean, I encourage them, yes, please do it. If you can't, if you're going out of town, you can't be part of the session. Of course, a lot of my students, they would, want to be in my class just because they're loyal families and things like that. But if they're going to be out of town for, a big portion of that, can we just do it at home? And I'd say, yeah, you can, sure, try, and I was encourage them to do that. But as I've just gone through quite a few years of this, I've just noticed it just doesn't work. They just need the class. They need the class. Even if they're enrolled in the class and they come one time, they need to be enrolled in the class and have paid for the class. And then if they are out of town, I do make special, little appointments with them. Even if I don't go to their house or they don't come to my studio, I, call the mom and say, hey, let me email you over the report and see how she's doing, how your student's doing. So I do have that accountability measure partway through if we haven't met for a little while, which is a really big part of it. Okay, any questions about any of the things that we've talked about? Yeah.
Since I haven't seen it in action, can you go over again, like, how do you put the little skills out and
Yeah.
explain that again about
So
how many they do a day and
for sure. I've noticed that in my age group, about 10 songs is totally doable, and it's like a nice round number. It will get them through slower, typically in 3 months, they may make it to stage 10, but it would take them probably the whole 3 months. Yeah.
Is it 10 songs in the time period they're in class with you? Is it a half hour, an hour, like how
When
long?
they're in class with me, I usually start them out with 6 songs because I do some of these other things where we do like conducting and things like some rhythm stuff, some things like that. But most of the time I'm adding. So start with 6. When you get done with 6, I'll add on. So we typically get through about 10 songs in the class period. It typically takes at home about 30 minutes to get through 10 songs.
Thank you.
So yeah.
For what age group?
This is for the hymns made easy. For the
Actually, it takes the same time for either one.
yeah.
Now, you're
For what
saying 10
age?
songs right hand alone.
Most of the children
Uh-huh.
are between 7 and 10 years old.
Or left hand alone.
Or hands together.
Or
They're on the same.
Yeah.
Same amount of time. What was key here is, when you first read it, you have, let's say you do the first song in the book, it's High on Mountaintop. You read through it slowly first, then you read through the medium speed, and then you read up to speed. Then you eat your skill, move to the next song.
That's the
Right. It's not they don't have a
Speeds.
skittle for every single read through, medium, slow, fast. It's just when you switch songs. So they know, oh, when I get a new song, eat my skittle.
Got it.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
ages?
I teach, so the youngest that I've had in the boot camp is probably 6, 5. I guess I've had a 5-year-old in there. And, his mom was partnered with him pretty closely, and he started around 12% was his average, and he moved up to about 30% pretty quick. And so, yeah, they can start quite young, and they can obviously go up to as high as you want.
And
Yeah.
then if they don't complete the whole boot camp, then they can come
Yeah,
back and
they
try
sure
again.
can. They sure can. They can just resume boot camp at any point in time. Or what I like to do is I do this every year, and I can have repeat students come back because you sight reading something, but this time instead of being at the 12 to 30%, they'll start out maybe at the 50 to 70%, or they can start out halfway through because there's 3 like little sort of benchmark sections you can start at. You can start at stage 7 or stage 10 instead, so they can start a little bit higher. When they're good with hymns made easy, they'll bump up into the regular hymns. Or we can have parents and students come together, which has been really fun. I've had even a grandma and her grandkids come together, and so the grandma will be working from the hymns, the standard hymns book, and the grandkids will be working from the hymns made easy, and they're all doing it together and coming to class together. And so it's really fun for families and parents too. For sure. Yeah.
And I just walked in halfway
Oh,
through,
yeah.
and so, was this once a week?
I typically have about once a week. This year I've got once every 2 weeks or so, just because I've got a pretty heavy travel schedule in the summer. But yeah, you could do typically a once a week class works really well for
And it
families.
just goes throughout the summer or whenever,
Mhm.
whenever you do it.
Yep.
So it's a 3-month?
Mine lasts 3 months because I just do it in the summertime, but you could really do it anytime and work it into your lessons during the school year. For me, I just have such a packed instructional time with Let's Play Music during the school year, so we just do this in the summertime. I use Piano Marvel with the Bridge kids during the school year, and not the hymn boot camp, but like the Sasser test and the lesson exercises and stuff. So yeah, I typically 3 months is, I feel like it's a good amount of time to focus. This is a really high focus activity. I typically don't, I like that it's in the summer because it's really hard to have a full traditional piano private lesson and this, right? Because then you would have half an hour of this, just sight reading, and then you've got to do all the other assignments. I think it's okay to do a lighter assignment. I do have 2 of my own children who are doing the hymn boot camp, obviously not very well, but they do have traditional piano lessons continuing their traditional lessons, and they're doing both. But it is a stretch to do like a full of both. So that's why I like the summertime to kind of say, well, let's focus a little more on this. And this could be in place of your private lessons during the summer, which is kind of nice. It adds that flexibility where you can have, however many keyboards you have at the same time, and just they pay you tuition and you just do this group lesson and focus on
Do
this.
they pay the tuition up front, or do
I
they
do, yeah. I do.
all up front?
Yeah, and it depends. If I have multiple sessions, I may have them pay for each session, as it begins. But I have found it's better to commit them like at the beginning, or even give them a discount of like the $10 discount if they pay for both sessions at the same time, just so that they're set for the summer. It's really it just adds so much value to them if they can do it for longer. So once parents understand that, like, oh, if you can be in that second session, if we can work out some way for us to keep you in there and keep you going, you're going to get most of that benefit that stays with you if you can, be at the end stages with me.
Do I dare ask what you charge per semester?
I don't know if it'll resonate very well with everybody, because obviously, you do your own thing. But in my studio, the hymn boot camp is $85 per month or per session. So I don't know how that.
So not per session?
Per month, yeah, it's per month. I mean, it's
So
like
they-
basically 4 times that we get together.
And your sessions are half an hour long, or how
An
long?
hour.
They're
An hour. And I have big sessions, though. I have like, 14 kids in a session and whatever.
So that per month, but it's 3 months long, right?
You would have you could have up to 3 sessions in the summer. So that would be 85, 85, and 85. Last year I had 2 sessions. I don't know, I teach so heavily in the school year, so I like to have a lighter summer schedule. And so I travel a lot and stuff. And so this year I only had 1 session. And it does last all 3 months, so I keep the parents engaged. They're really getting a super awesome deal. Because I just meet once every 2 weeks. I'm still only charging them $85. So I'm really only meeting 4 times with them. But it's spread. They're doing most of the work at home. We just need that accountability put in there across the summer. So that's just my own personal preference. If I had, one of my teachers teaching hymn boot camp at the music store, I would probably make it more regularly scheduled. But I'm just kind of got a lot of other things going on this summer. Pretty laid back.
So we're about out of time?
Yeah.
Have you finished most of what you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Did you have one more question?
Do you have any prerequisites before they come? I mean,
Yeah, I do. So I want them to graduate from Let's Play Music before they come, or be at about a method level 1B before they come. So they've got, understanding. But Aaron's taken no music training at all, and he has taught them how to play piano with the boot camp, which is pretty cool. I haven't done that, but he's done it in his room.
So, Joel, did you want to announce the next one?
Yes.
Okay, I also need to know how many of you brought a laptop? Laptop here, laptop. David brought a laptop. Okay. After Lindsay's, Lindsay,
Laura.
Laura. Okay, Laura, what's your last name? Laura?
Blanchard.
Blanchard. Okay, I remember.
Check. The battery's going low on this one, so.
I'm not sure we need them.
Well, it's because we've got a recording going, so it helps with that.
We have the
Do you have two
PDF
of them?
of these, you can take two of these.
Go ahead and you can plug into that HDMI up there and I'll get it ready for you.
That's because this was printed and this was printed before we switched to 10 stages. The 10 stages are here, they just kind of mixed in.
Yeah, I just didn't have time to redo that, but I will redo that for next year. to show
Gotta
Yeah,
switch
do you
off
want
the
us,
batteries
do
on
you
that.
want us to create
Just
another
turn off
new
with
Yeah, that way I don't